Okay, guys, very welcome back to the show. We've got a very, very special guest on the show today, Mr. Brian Costello on the Mario Mancini and Jake Kilby show.
Well, I got to say, Maurice, let me tell you something. From all the times you said the Mario Mancini show, and I'd go, get the hell out of here. You know damn well it's your show. You got Brian Costello on here. I think it'd be pretty smart to say it is my show because I know Brian. And if you ask the wrong thing, he's going to X out. And you'll never hear or see from him again. So
I'm not that Mario. I'm not that big of a prick. You know that.
Well, Brian, you got the big day coming up, man. And Roma's in Hawaii, and
I know you guys are supposed to be here, and Roma screwed it all up.
He did. He's in Hawaii. I decided to take a trip up the Presque Isle, Tony Altomar's favorite town. Tony Altomar would say, you haven't been on the road until you've gone to Presque Isle, Maine. So my daughter's up here, so I'm going to visit her, and we're all scattered, and we should be at Four Winds Field, man.
Yeah, you. I know how you love taking that trip down from Connecticut to Indiana and hitting your Waffle House.
Well, it's Brian, I like it, but here's the gimmick. Here's the thing, I left work at 3:00. I'm going to get in the Presque Isle at about 20 minutes to 1, which is fine. And it's like nobody can take the day off of work and just leave at 6:00 in the morning and get to Indiana 8:00 at night, 9:00 at night. Roma has to leave at 10:00 at night. The worst time for any human being to travel is between 4 and 7 a.m. in the morning, REM sleep time. And, I'm mother effing them between those hours. And, you get a little nap before you, but once you get the Four Winds, man, I mean, the place is so, number one, it's so beautiful. I mean, the field is just so beautiful. I don't care if you didn't sleep all night. When you get there, you get all perked up, man.
And I should tell you guys, Jack and Maurice, it's normally maybe a 10-hour, 12-hour drive for those guys, unless Mario's driving. Then it goes into like 18, 20 hours. That's why they only let him drive a little bit.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's true. Hey, listen, we were on the Jersey Turnpike, right? It's like 3:30 in the morning. I was 19 years old, man. Roma was like 27. And he goes, I can't. I'm like, all right, Roma. All right, I'll drive. I drove maybe 2,000 yards. He goes, pull over, get from behind the wheel. I go, what's your problem? Pull over. I pulled over, he got back behind the wheel and drove the rest of the way. Yeah, man.
Oh, he's gone. He's gone already.
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, no.
He scared him away.
Well, it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I think he's coming back.
Wait.
Jack, I'll let you tag in for the first question, Jack, because I know you're going to be...
Well,
absolutely.
There he goes.
Absolutely. Well, that's the joys of StreamYard. Brian, thanks for coming on the show tonight. I know a lot of fans have really been looking forward to what is really a rare podcast appearance for you. And I'm going to begin by asking you a question with respect to some of your earliest appearances on television, that working the AWA territory, and specifically you worked a lot of who's there, including Buddy Rose, Nick Bockwinkel, the Midnight Rockers, but you also did a couple, if the research is correct, with King Kong Bruiser Brody. Wanted to know your experience working with him on television and your thoughts on his legacy.
I mean, I loved him to death. He had that reputation of being a brute and a master of the ring, and if you screwed up or tried to shoot with him or something, he would kill you. And I remember going into that, he's like, kid, he goes, just listen to me and follow me. And everything he did, honestly, to me, and all that. And even though being new and young in the business, didn't have a problem. Didn't really, you want to say, didn't hurt me, didn't touch me. I can remember, I want to say one of the matches we did was at the Hammond Civic Center. We went up into the bleachers and were beating the snot out of it. And he was just like, follow me, son. And he's throwing me up the bleachers and all that stuff and back. And I remember that one, I think we were in a tag match, and him and John Nord, who was later the Berserker, they came out and they're carrying trash cans, and and it's like, again, new, but kind of, I won't say a veteran or whatever, but confident in my ability. I mean, we're ready to go, and I look at my partner, like, oh my God, they're carrying trash cans. They're carrying. I mean, and he was like shitting himself, almost like, dude, relax. And I know he got more of a pounding than I did. But again, it was just the thing where you're in there with something, and it's the same thing, just, old veteran and all that, just listen and follow through and do what he asked. And never had a problem with him, and crossed paths with him a couple times from the AWA. And then later on, I was working for Spike Huber, had his own organization called the PAWA, and he brought him in and all that, and saw him there and worked. Same thing, complete professional, no problems, didn't hurt me. In the mat, I'll be honest, he was light as a feather.
Yeah, it sounded like he was more an individual not to be crossed if you were a promoter than a wrestler, with some rare exceptions.
Well, yeah, I mean, I saw him also one time when we did TV up in Minneapolis, Native. I mean, I don't know exactly what. The kid was missing up spots, and I literally saw him like put the big boot to his face, and his nose went to the other side of his face. I mean, he split it. And to be honest, Bruiser had no remorse whatsoever. I just beat the snot out of the kid, and it was just, I guess, to a point of learning experience where technically, I mean, we're all professionals. We're in there to protect each other, but eventually, some of those guys were like, "Hey, you're here to make me look good. I'm gonna make you look good and not hurt you, or whatever. But if you start screwing up after a while, they're just gonna, if you want to say, take liberties and end it." And I actually saw that that happen up in Minneapolis when we were doing TV up there. So it does happen. I mean, not to, the one time when I was working all Japan, I won't go into a great story. That's for another time if I'm ever on here. Let's just say there was an incident between me and Johnny Ace, who we didn't get along, and it got heated into a point where, at one point, Stan and Abdullah had to step in and break it up or whatever and all that. And when we were on tour there, and later on, Dr. Death Steve Williams was coming in, because we were there for the month, and he was only there for 2 weeks. And somehow he got word of it. And we were doing a 6-man tag match, and it was me, Stan Hansen, and Nord, Tom Brandy, Dr. Death, and Richard Signature. And actually it's on YouTube and all that, the match and all that stuff. But the finish was Doc was going to do a tilt-a-whirl slam to me. And he comes up to me, and I got along great with Doc. We went out and had fun and all that throughout the tour and all that. But that part of that match, he's like, "Are we going to have a problem, son?" And I go, "Not at all, Doc." And it was
pretty wise.
It was it was a great match, easy match. But he knew, where, he had caught wind of whatever the incident with, me and Ace or whatever and all that stuff. I don't know if he thought like, oh, this kid might be a problem or whatever, but it was, he didn't know the whole circumstances or whatever and all that. But that was always one thing. Like, we got, like, no, not at all.
Amazing.
I think Mario is having some connectivity issues on the road, from what I can see there. Brian, my first question for you was, what was it like working with the Ultimate Warrior in WWF? Because you hear all these stories about how he was. So I'd like to kind of know your experience with him.
I mean, most of the people have dogged him and criticized him and all that. I was friends with him.
Okay.
Part of the thing that kind of connected us to where we got along, we were fellow Hoosiers. He was originally from Indiana, which I was from. So that connection or whatever, it kind of like bonded us or whatever. I worked him so many times. Was he a great worker? No. Did he do the same things? Yes. I can remember the first time I worked him, he went to hit me with a clothesline and totally missed the chest part, hit me upside the head and just basically literally knocked me out. How I finished the match, I have no clue. I did the press slam, all that, boom, boom, boom. We came back to the back, and it was so funny to a point where Vince is standing back there and so is Pat Patterson. And I mean, I lit into the Warrior. And I'm like, you son of a bitch, you ever hit me like that again and knock me out? I go, I will beat the shit out of you in the ring and I will stretch you. I said, there's no call for that, no sense. I will make you look like $1 million every time. And you don't have to literally kill me in there. My job is to get you over and I will get you over and make it. And after that, we never had a problem. I mean, was he stiff and clumsy? Yeah. You knew what you were getting when you went in there. But after that, I said, I probably worked him a dozen times or so. And never a problem. I mean, one of the last times it was funny, because we always did TV. Maury knows that. And actually we did the one time we did like TV like Monday, Tuesday, and like both nights I had him. And the time before I had him. So, I had him on TV like 4 or 5 times in a row, which, sometimes they knew they could get a good match out of him or get him, over whatever one. And we were in Louisville and he's putting on his paint and I'm lacing up my boots and we're in the locker room and he goes, it's me and you, B. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And he goes, same old shit that we do and all that stuff. And I'm lacing up my boots and he's putting on his war paint. And I look at him, I go, no, I'm not doing that shit tonight. And he keeps doing it. And I'm still lacing up the boots. And you could hear a pin drop in the locker room. He goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, we're going to switch it up. I said, I'm going to beat you for the title. 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. And he goes, okay, good. He goes, let's do it. He goes, but make sure when you do it and you grab the belt and you're running out that you have your car running at the backside of the door because there's going to be a whole lot of agents running after your ass trying to get the belt back and all that stuff. So, I mean, we got along great to a point where we could do that stuff and kind of like rib each other and have fun where, like I said, a lot of people have no use for him or dogged him and all that stuff and all that. I won't do that. He was a friend of mine, I enjoyed working with him, better than some of the other ones that I was, matched up with or whatever. But again, I knew what to expect from him.
Mario, have you got a question?
After they're left onto Route 7.
I'm sorry, I got for a little bit there.
Yeah, I don't think.
Who is your main event this year at 4 Wins?
We're doing a 6-man tag. Well, it's supposed to be Paulie in there with us because that's the angle and storyline we've been doing. And the one guy that's the assistant vice president and head of promotions and all that stuff is always at the show and always runs the stuff and all that. Chris Hagstrom, and periodically he's in our clashes. he's butted in and interfered in matches and all that stuff. And the last one we did, when Paul was there, me and Paul were wrestling each other. He jumped in there when the referee went down, decided to become the referee, and attacked both me and Roma, and wanted me to cover Roma for the win. And I told him previous that no, I don't need your help. It's going to be one-on-one, me against him. Best man's going to win, all that. And needless to say, he kind of took a whipping from both of us. Well, he's went and got a couple of his lackeys, and his two guys and him are taking on myself, Cowboy Bob Orton, and the Barbarian in a 6-man tag match.
Barbarian.
So I really don't
Nice.
think he understands
That's a great show.
what's in store for him, especially from Barb and the Big Boot.
Oh man, that's a great match with the Barbarian and Orton, man. That's great. Damn it, I wish I was there.
Well, I said you guys are planning, but Paul,
Roma
take
screwed
that
everything
vacation
up.
to Hawaii.
Question, Jack?
I keep texting him going, hey Don Ho. Hey Don Ho.
Brian, you had a very high profile and well remembered encounter in 88 it was 89 with Andre the Giant, where he grabbed you from behind and did the two headbutts, and you were brutalized in that way. Do you remember who put that sequence together and why it's so well remembered today?
Well, that was that was setting up the feud for Andre and Hacksaw. So I know Pat, one of Mario's favorite guys, came to me and said, "Hey, you're working with Boss," and like I always got along with Andre, and Mario knows that himself from being up there many years. I mean, either Andre liked you or he didn't. So it's kind of like the same thing. Just listen to me, son, and all that. And plus, sometimes in traveling and all that, I know when they used to come in here to my town and at South Bend and Wrestle Notre Dame, Andre be there and he'd be like, "Hey, boss, go out to the van for me." And I'd have to run out to the van and smuggle in his wine so he could have his beverages before the matches and all that stuff. So again, it was an easy night off. He was just like, just listen to me, attack me before the bell and all that, and a couple headbutts out. But who got the victory in that match?
You.
Me. I got a victory over Andre.
By DQ?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's unbelievable.
So yeah, but that set up the feud for Hacksaw, because then Hacksaw came out there and made the save, and they had a long run with those two guys and all that stuff. So I mean, again, it was a pleasure working with him and all that, and again, he was later in his career where couldn't move as well as he used to, but same thing, just feed into me and listen to me. And again, I don't know, hit me of 3 or 4 headbutts, never touched me.
Amazing.
Unlike, some of the other guys that he kind of rough up, from Shiki to Bigelow to Savage and all that. Andre was a gentle giant that day.
He used to kick the daylights out of John Studd, man. Oh my God.
It's true. I said either, and Mario knows, we knew it, and I mean, I used to watch him and Arnold and a couple of Hacksaw and that. They play that
Hearts.
Well, no, I think they were playing cribbage and all that stuff. And I remember one time I always watch them and all that and playing, and they played for big bucks. And Andre like, "You want to play?" And I'm like, "No, that's okay. I'll just watch." He goes, "I'll teach you." And I'm like, No, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, No, I'll just watch you guys. I don't want to learn. I was like, You know, because they were playing for big bucks or whatever and all that stuff when they played.
Andre was something else, man.
Do you have any memories, Brian, of working with Jake Roberts? And did you ever get the infamous snake treatment from him?
Oh God, he was another one. I enjoyed working Jake, whether it was house shows or even TV. Again, light as a feather, true professional. I mean, one time I know he went for that short clothesline and nailed me and hit me high. As soon as we got back there, he was apologizing up and down. He was beating himself up. I'm like, Jake, it's all, you know, it happens. No, it doesn't. I mean, he was beating himself up because he was a true professional hitting that short clothesline and protecting guys on the DDT. And he just happened, just the angle that he was a little high and caught me in the head or whatever. And again, he was almost like shaken to a point where he was so pissed off at himself that he did that or whatever. And it was just like, no problem with her. The snake, I never had a problem with it. Whether it was the boa or the python, because he always had a couple different ones, I would just go, Jake, what do you got tonight? Just to let me know and all that. I wasn't afraid. One time we did it, we actually wrapped my head in the bag, tied it around, shook the thing and all that, and then pulled the bag out and it's wet. And the guys in the back are like, oh my God, you're freaking nuts. Why'd you do that? I'm like, it's not going to do anything. What if it bites you? Well, then you see my ass coming out of that bag really quick if it bit me. But Jake always protected me and all that stuff. So that it was a night off. I loved working him.
There's a question here from the Guardian of Chaos. Brian, your top 3 matches in your career, what do you think they are?
Well, I mean, that kind of depends. I mean, if we're going, like WWF or some of the independent ones, because some of the matches we have at Clash. I mean, I've had some great matches with Barbarian and Paul Roma and Greg Valentine. We've actually tore the stadium down a lot of times. In WWF, probably one was Hercules, and we did that. That was out here at Notre Dame, University of Notre Dame. And actually, we got our butts chewed out from the agents because it was so good. And we were taken away from, quote, the main events and all that stuff because we did everything. And we went on the outside, and we were fighting on the outside of the ring, into the barricades, on the thing. And I mean, I was following Herc, and Herc didn't care. He's like, let's go, let's do it. And the other one was probably Haku in Cleveland. We didn't go over anything. Everything was called out in the ring, and it went so smooth that it looked like ballet to a point, and so perfect that it was a night off. And maybe Indianapolis. I mean, there's other, we on a house show, I'd wrestled Owen Hart, and it was a good, I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed working him. And then later on, in the main event, it was Jerry Lawler versus Bret Hart in a cage, and Owen was the second for Bret, and I was one of the knights when they were doing the night things for Jerry. So I was underneath the hood as one of the knights, and came out there and throughout the match attacked Owen, carried him out, and then basically attacked Bret throughout the match or whatever. Bret ended up winning, but then stopped him. We threw him back in the ring, and me and Lawler beat the snot out of him in the cage. Then afterwards, that's probably like the 3 that that I really enjoyed. I mean, there's a lot of TV matches I enjoyed. I enjoyed working with certain guys, You walk in the TV, Mario knows this, and you look at the big board, and it's like, oh, okay, I got him night off. And then you look at him, and your head would just drop like, oh God, I got him. You know,
Yeah.
and there was a few that, you know, when you saw their, you know, their name on the board, I got him like, oh God, you just knew it was going to be the shits.
Do you want to tag in there, Jack? Because I know you got to go shortly.
Yes, sir. Brian, given the fact that you just referenced looking at the board and seeing who you have, there's a lot of mythology around the Legion of Doom Road Warriors, especially early in their career, when guys would look at them and quote unquote pass out. But my question involves around the fact that you had the during your WWF tenure, you had the distinction of working in tags, not only the Legion of Doom / Road Warriors, but the Powers of Pain and Demolition. Out of those three teams, do you have a favorite to compete against there? And the part B of this question is, do you think that Demolition will ever get their place in the WWE Hall of Fame?
God, I hope so, because, you know, the thing that kind of like upsets me so much is where Demolition is a ripoff of Legion of Doom and all that stuff. And, you know, that was Vince's, you know, thing too, because he was trying to get those guys done. But you look back to that, Bill Eadie was a phenomenal worker. From the Masked Superstar, and I mean, he could work and work his butt off. And Barry as Crusher Khrushchev was a great worker. So, I mean, they just put him as a team, and, you know, and I think they were one of the most popular teams there. I think, yeah, was it nice or whatever when Road Warriors came up there and all that, or Legion of Doom? But I think they had lost some of their steam at that point because they'd been around and all that, and it was like, then the people were used to Demolition and all that stuff. So I hope so. But again, you go back to the lawsuit that Bill won against them and all that. You know, they still do hold grudges. You know, there, to me, there's a lot of guys right now that should be in the Hall of Fame that aren't. You know, besides Demolition, I think Ivan Koloff should be in there.
Yes.
I think King Kong Bundy should be in there, and some of the other ones that they put in there. I mean, there's guys that, you know, were great and filled the seats and all that stuff, and were phenomenal wrestlers and workers. I mean, I enjoyed all of them. I can't say that, you know, one was better than the other. I mean, I had a problem, didn't have a problem with any of those. Part of it was I knew Barb and Warlord really well, so they took care of me. So usually my partner was the one that got the punishment. I got this stuff. Same thing with Bill and Barry. I knew them, and they knew I could work, so I get to do some stuff or whatever. And even with the Road Warriors, didn't have a problem with either one of them. They were never stiff to me. I can't say that to some of my partners because I was on the outside looking. So, I mean, I enjoyed all three of them. As far as that one, I mean, another one. I mean, I enjoyed the natural disasters. More so earthquake, and you got quick little story about this one and all that. I enjoyed working them. I had to work them probably half dozen times. One of the first times we were working, and Typhoon, and I love Fred. I love him to death, but he takes in, goes to give me a suplex. In the middle of the suplex, he lets go of me, and I go flying across the ring, bounced on my head. Did the match, boom, boom, boom. We come back and all that. I pull earthquake aside. I go, he's like a bull in a china shop, John. I go, whenever we work again, it's me and you. I go, I don't want to be in there with Fred. He's too dangerous. He's like, I got you. Next time we worked or whatever, we were in there and Typhoon's in there, and he throws my guy over and he tags or whatever, and I'm coming in, and I look over the corner, and I look at Quake, and I'm like, and Quake's yelling at him, come here. And Fred's like, he goes, come here, tag me. He tagged him. He came in there, we did the stuff or whatever. He's like, okay, go tag your partner. Tag my partner. He tagged him, and then Fred did his stuff on him or whatever. He never let Typhoon in there with me after that again. He took care of me and all that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, great guy.
Mario, do you want to chip in with anything?
Oh no.
Okay, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sometimes it's better to have Mario on mute.
Oh, he's still
Okay.
on mute.
We'll continue on. Brian, I want to ask you about the enigma that is Vince McMahon. Any stories about Vince, whether they be good, whether it be bad, whether it be about advice he ever gave you? What was he like?
I mean, he would always say hi to me. I say hi. I mean, we never had like, a lot of, interaction or whatever and all that stuff. It's just from working for him, whatever, and you can see he could be the greatest guy. He could be your worst enemy. He could make you a superstar or end your career. It all depended, I guess, technically on his mood and what you did and all that stuff. Was he, or was he a genius? Yeah, from what he did and all that stuff. Did he stay, and is he staying too long? Probably, but that's his baby, as Mario said before and all that stuff. He's, and even though whatever they sold it or whatever and all that, he still got his grip on it and running it and all that stuff, and he probably will till he dies. That's his baby and all that stuff, and even when he went through the transition where he stepped down and all that, us guys, he was still calling the shots from behind the scenes. We all know
100%.
that. I talked to a few guys or whatever, and hey, they were still saying, yeah, he's still in charge, even though he wasn't there and all that, and they did all the PC stuff or whatever he's gone away and all that. He's still running it. It's it.
Yeah. Sure, a prime example of that now is us talking from 4 different parts of the world. We're all here. Like, that's how easy it would have been for him to communicate, back then.
He's made it into the empire that he, and he'll do it until he dies.
Yeah, I do think though that he's somewhat disconnected to it compared to what he was for sure.
Well, that happens to all of them. I mean, I hate to say it, from my time in the AWA when Vern was still running it, we saw that how it was collapsing, and he was still trying to run it the way it used to be, and it was changing, and he wasn't changing a bit. He was still doing it, and you could see everybody was bolting and all that stuff, and it was coming to Drizzlins, and he just kept running it till the door finally closed.
Well, gentlemen, I have to take my leave. I regret, because I have many more questions for you, Brian, but you're in great hands with Maurice. Mario, it's been a pleasure as always. Safe travels, sir, and we'll talk to you again. Take care.
Thanks very much, Jack.
Nice meeting you, Jack.
Take care.
Maurice, I got to chime in on this, man, because I haven't had somebody so similar in times on this show than Brian, and now you saw my chin drop on the other interviews with other enhancement talents and stuff on these elaborate conversations they had with Vince McMahon, and Vince McMahon going up to him, hey, pal, hey, this and this, and having these huge elaborate, I mean, we barely said hello to the guy. We wouldn't even approach him. He wasn't even approachable.
I mean, he was approachable. What was I going to say? Like, hey, when are you going to, what are you going to do with me? I mean, I was there to do a job. I knew that and I basically, if anything, I talked to J.J. Dillon or Terry Garvin or Pat.
I count on Strongbow to do my communication for me.
You know, but I mean, I'll be honest, for 3 or 4 years when I was still with him, I mean, Mario, I don't know if I used to get birthday and Christmas cards from Vince.
Christmas card, yeah, I never got a birthday card.
But no, I
never got a birthday
cards,
Christmas
and I'm
card,
going, and I'm kind of like, does he know who the hell I am?
Yeah.
You know,
Tony Starson probably sent those out.
So I'm going like, did the secretary, I mean, it was Vince's signature and all here, sign it and send them out, but
yeah,
I mean, we would always see it, and Mario could probably attest to it. There was always a line of people wanting to talk to Vince and bitch and moan of the talent.
of course, yeah.
No, believe me, I've had several conversations with him, but he wasn't like, hey, but anytime I said, Caesar, can I talk to you for a minute? He'd say, he almost would roll his eyes and go, what is it, Mario? Mario, what is it, Mario? And these guys, Maurice would have, I guess, he's like, yeah, well, I would talk to Vince and Vince. And then they were like, yeah, Vince called me at home. And I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
And they're in the same position we're in. Yeah, Vince called me. Vince called you at home. What?
I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's been going to calling you for a while.
The only ones that used to call me was JJ or Terry. Like, hey, I need you in this town. This one. I mean, one time I remember when I just did TV and basically went home for a while, and he's like, hey, Bret Hart just broke his sternum in a match. I need you to fill his spot, and the plane tickets are waiting for you at the airport. Go. And which unfortunately for me, I had to fill his spot, and I was working Dino Bravo or whatever, and that was a nightmare for 3 or 4 days, on that run or whatever. But I took those spots or whatever when Bret broke his sternum.
Yeah. Terry always ring the phone off the wall. Oh, man, we need you to Baltimore Civic Center. The ticket's already there for you at the airport. I'm like, okay. But you know what, Maurice? I've been around Brian. Not only back then did we share a dressing room, but I had the privilege of sharing a dressing room in his own promotion and even going out to dinner. But there's always one thing. I never had time enough alone with him to ask him one thing. He got to do what I was dying to do and never got to do. How was Japan?
I mean, that was phenomenal. It was, and somebody gave me a thing or whatever. Hey, and I sent some pictures, maybe a table. Next thing I know, Stan Hansen's calling me, and he's like, "Son, you're booked. We're sending you the paperwork, blah blah blah. Fill it out, and you leave this time or whatever." And it was, I want to say it was 90. It was either 93 or 94 of January, and that was the first time. And I was over there for a month, and we wrestled like 28 out of the 30 days.
Wow.
And it was, and I worked from singles to tags to 6-mans, and I mean, I'll be honest, I was very, it's kind of like as a rookie over there my first time. Early on, I was like, a lot of times the first, second matches out there, basically because I could work. So you had to go out there and wrestle for, at that time, that still was like serious and old school. So you had to like work and wrestle. So there was times where, we were wrestling 20, 25 minutes opening match. Mm-hmm. Whether it was American or one of the Japanese wrestlers. And then got elevated to where I was working tags. And then I was working 6-man tags, which, I mean, that was awesome because one of my group was, and we did it 3 or 4 times, was myself, Stan Hansen, and John Nord. We were a 6-man tag. And then myself, Abdul the Butcher, and Kamala was a 6-man tag. And that was fun too because I was the only one out of the bunch that could work as far as wrestling and all that. And those guys did their gimmicks and all that stuff. So, over there we were the Oreo cookies.
Now was it true Did you have to shoot? Did you have to make your mark when you first got there, or they would have tried to stretch you? Did you have to like?
There was a few of the Japanese stars that, and believe me, there was one, and it was Kawada, Kazuki or something like that, and another. It was like almost like the three big guys of the promotion was against me, Stan, and Nord in one match, and the one was shooting with me, and I was shooting right back, and he was good at kicking, so he would give kicks real good right to the chest, and literally almost like knock the wind out of you. And he nailed me the first time, and I punched him. He nailed me another one. It's like, oh, okay, I see how it's going to be. So I stood there and said, give me another. And he wound up and gave me another one, and I didn't even blink. And I go, give me another. And he was like, you can see in his eyes, wound up, gave me, and I go, one more. And he bailed out of the ring, and I went after him. It's like, he didn't want any more. It's like, okay, this, it has no effect on me now, whatever. And he ran, and I caught him, whatever. And then, needless to say, we were fighting on the outside, and he kind of like came in contact with the ring post a few times.
Nice.
But yeah, there was a few, and there was other ones, really nice to work with and all that stuff. But there was some that, you had to kind of like establish yourself like, dude, I'm here to work. You want to work, I'll work. If you want to kind of shoot or whatever, well, let's go. And to be honest, it was, after a while, it was easier working the Japanese than the Americans. Because
wow,
the Americans, it was, some of those were, and I guess they were just kind of like worrying about their spots, on the tier and all that stuff. So you get in there and some of it was like snug and kind of like a shoot on that. I mean, we still worked or whatever, but it was like snugger than usual.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I hate to say, with Stan as a partner, there's nobody as snug as Stan can be.
Yeah. Brian, you got to fight Bret Hart for the Intercontinental title, and like you had numerous title matches throughout your career. What was it like working with Bret?
True professional, easy. Again, and he's always said, I think Mario might have done a show with him or whatever a while back or whatever. I don't know. I mean, he always took pride in not hurting his opponent. I mean, a lot of his matches were the same thing or whatever, and this and that, whatever. But truly a professional. It was easy. It was easy. I mean, it was a guy. I mean, as far as that one goes, yeah, I had an Intercontinental match with him, with Perfect, with Savage, with Warrior. I think who else might have had the belt at that time or whatever. But I mean, all those guys. I mean, the only thing, Randy was easy to work with. The only thing that, if you want to say it sucked, was that big elbow, because that, it was like you felt it or whatever. It wasn't like
confirm that. I can confirm that.
It was up there and he hit you with that or whatever. And I mean, I hate to say it's the same thing. When I worked with Snuka, easy to work with, but the biggest thing was his splash, because you felt that. I mean, you set up for it to take the blow, but you still felt his weight, and he did everything to protect you. But the velocity coming down there, you could easily, take the wind right out of you.
Yeah. Did you ever get to work with Hogan?
Nope. Was on many shows with him, and all that, but nope, never worked with him. About the only one.
Battle Royals?
No, he was never in, because actually we did the first 40-man Battle Royal, and we did that one for a few weeks, taking it around and he still was never in that. Had everybody else and their brother in that, but he was never in it.
I did Battle Royals with him.
Yeah, no.
How did you find him? How did you find him as a person, Brian?
I got along with him. I mean, even though he had his own locker room and all that stuff, you might see him pass him. Hey, how you doing? Good. How you, Hulk? I mean, one time I think we were in Omaha or something like that, and needless to say, some of the boys were partaking in a few, let's say, certain cigarettes.
Okay.
And he was like, hey, you're dressing by the front door, right? I'm over here. And like, you holler at us if somebody comes in. And basically, if any of the agents came in there and all that, because, you know, it was a smoke screen. And all of a sudden, Pat Patterson came walking in there and like, Jesus Christ, what is this stuff? And we're going, what are you talking about? And all that stuff. And but some of the guys were partaking in the locker room and all that stuff. But he was always nice and cordial. I mean, again, I didn't have a lot of interaction with him because he was always off in his own locker room and doing his own thing. But, you know, he wasn't, you know, if he passed him or whatever and all that, hey, how you doing? Good, how are you? And just keep going. It wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
There's just certain guys. But see, like, even on that one, like when the Warrior was world champion and all that, and he had his own locker room, he would still talk to me and all that stuff. And he even comes to, hey, you want to dress? I'm like, no, I don't want. That's okay, Jim. That's, you know, I'm one of the boys. I don't need to be, you know.
There's a promoter here, and he's desperate to get you for a convention. See, look, you've only been on the show 45 minutes.
Yes, I know. I got to give Scott a call, and I will give him a call as soon as I get done with my show here. So probably next week.
Do you hear that? Your show. It's his show now, Mario.
Scott, bring him in to Hamburg.
That's what he wants to talk to me about.
Well, let me tell you something. You bring Brian Costello in, I guarantee you, well, you'll quadruple your money. That he doesn't do them, and everybody remembers him. But he doesn't do those things.
I'm an old bastard.
There's people older than you, man, at conventions.
What you don't know, and what I didn't know, is that there are wrestling fans out there. They want to see us badly. They want to see us badly.
Well,
they want to open up that encyclopedia and have you sign that encyclopedia.
And you know, to a point, Mario, and I'm sure there was a time we were on TV every weekend.
That's right.
Every weekend, whether it was Prime Time, Wrestling Challenge,
That's right.
the other one. I mean, we were on every weekend.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
and the best thing is people are like, hey, I saw you on TV. Did you watch it? No.
No.
What?
No.
Why not? Why would I watch it? I was there. I know.
I did it. Yeah, no, I didn't watch it. No. My father would always go, I taped it. I go, good for you. I don't want to relive the bumps.
Bring Brian to Paradise Alley. There's another comment there.
The Guardian of Chaos.
No, because
you know what?
Oh, Undertaker's got it.
All right.
Oh, you're on mute. I think he must have got a phone call. Maybe you're on mute.
Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens.
Mm-hmm. Brian, you're going to have to go back into the link again. We can't hear you because I think you got a phone call. It was probably Scott Wilder.
Scott Wilder.
But Paul brought Richard Holiday at one of his first matches at the Clash.
Yes.
He had him so nervous because I was doing a match with him that Richard was just shaking and all that stuff. And because he told him that, now be careful. He's an asshole. He's a prick. He'll stretch you in the ring and all that stuff and all that. And then Richard comes in there, is like real kind of like shy. And, okay, what do you want to do for the match? And I'm like, I don't know. I said, just listen to me. We'll walk and talk. And he walked out, and Paul goes, did you get your match? And he goes, well, sort of, kind of. He goes, what'd he say? He goes, just listen to me. We'll walk and talk. And Richard kind of didn't know what that meant or whatever. So Paul had to bring him back in, and I kind of told him. And we went over a couple spots he wanted to do, but for the most part, it was just like, hey, we're going to walk and talk out there and call everything out in the ring. So you got to watch Mario and Roma when they bring some of their students in. They get them so petrified. Even when they had their tag team, the House of Pain, they told him that me and Bob was going to hurt him.
Roma.
Yeah. Brian, do you have any memories of working with the Rockers, Janetti and Sean?
Oh God, I always enjoyed those. From my time in the AWA to W, I knew it was always going to be a good match. Get some wrestling stuff in there, and whether it was Sean or Marty. And I'll be honest with you, and I don't know how Mario feels or whatever. I always take a lot of heat and guff from this. Back in that day, I always thought Marty was the better worker.
I agree.
And should have been farther, but unfortunately, Marty had demons, and Sean played the political card and all that stuff. So you saw how kind of like the careers went. But I always loved working either or. Marty's been in it for me 3 or 4 times at my show here. Probably and I feel bad. We were in Canada wrestling, and I was wrestling them, and my tag team partner was a fairly new kid or whatever, and we were having a good match or whatever, and I'm on the outside, and Marty's on the outside. We're getting ready to go home, and Sean sets him up for the super kick, and Marty just looks at me and starts laughing and giggling, and I'm shaking my head and like, no, don't. And I mean, he connected with him. Sean did, and like took his head off. And you just see the eyes fall back and boom and all that. And then Marty puts his head down there and he's kind of chuckling or whatever, and they pin him, whatever. And I'm like, guys, that wasn't necessary or whatever. And you know, we knew it was coming and whatever on there, and that they kind of like, well, it's, you know, initiation or whatever and all that. And then, you know, unfortunately, I was there too in the Tampa thing down in Florida when the incident with the one guy or whatever. And that was unfortunate or whatever and all that, but when they injured the one wrestler.
Was that when he broke his back, that gentleman, wasn't it?
Yeah, or broke his neck back or whatever and all that stuff, and then
yeah.
You know, that was unfortunate or whatever. I mean, you know,
what was the mood like? What was the mood like when something like that happened?
I mean, you know, it's shock, you know, and all that stuff. And, you know, and then right away, I hate to say, you know, people are pointing their finger, you know, well, you took the move wrong or this and that. And it, you know, it happens. I mean, it shouldn't have, whatever. But, again, I don't know. I've taken that move from Marty many a times. You know, it's the same thing. I hate to say, if Jake's doing a DDT to you, you know, yeah, he's protecting you, but you got to know how to take it. I mean, you can literally, you know, break your neck or knock yourself out. You know, it's kind of like you gotta be, you know, you gotta be professional and know how to take the move. Yourself. Yeah.
So, you worked. I was going to say you worked in 1996 in a tag team match for the tag team titles on WCW TV against Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. What was the main difference for you? I'm going to say between working for WCW and working for WWF.
Oh God, kind of like night and day. One, you know, their rings were smaller than the Federation's rings. How the production and the things were ran were totally different. I mean, WWF was so much more professional. You really didn't know who was running the stuff and who was in charge. Again, being up there with those guys and working Scott Hall before and all that, he was easy, and even Kevin was easy. And because I know when we did the match, you know, Kevin's like, hey, I'm going to give you the jackhammer. And I kind of first at the time, like, you know, I was hesitant about it. And he's like, what's going on? And he asked, and he wasn't, you know, a dick about it. Like, what's your hesitation or whatever? And I said, you know, I really don't want to take a power bomb or whatever and all that. And he's like, well, can I ask you why? I go, well, last time down here, I said, I worked Vader. And right away, you know, he started shaking his head. He goes, that piece of shit. And he knew, and I said, well, he gave me a power bomb and tried to drive me through the mat. And he actually separated my shoulder when he did it. You know, and Kevin was like, I'm going to lift you up, and I'm just going to release you, and you're going to take your bump yourself. He was, you're going to be in the air, and I'm just going to release you. And he did exactly that, and it was perfect. But he knew what I was talking about and knew the situation or whatever. And it's just sometimes people that you can trust and can't trust.
Yeah. The amount of guys that I've been talking to on the show lately that have been roughed up by Vader is fucking crazy. At least 4 or 5 of the last few guests.
I know it's like, you know, you hear some of these guys, I don't like to speak ill of the dead. I mean, I can't stand him. To me, he was a piece of shit. He took liberties with guys. And, I mean, I had a match with him or whatever when he did that or whatever. And he was stiff as can be. And like I said, when he did that power bomb or whatever, literally tried to drive me through the ring and separated my shoulder and all that stuff. And I'll be honest, you know, I've heard all things, and I've heard it from Paulie or whatever too. I'm so glad that Orndorff kicked the shit out of him. Couldn't happen to a better guy. There's a lot of things that we've lost a lot of our brothers and all that, and some, you know, some get me more than others because I knew him more and all that stuff. When he passed, I could care less on that one, just because, you know, it's a business of two guys where you're there to protect each other and make each other look good. And he's just one guy that I just, be honest, I had no respect for.
Brian, do you have any vendors at your show with guests?
No, we don't have any vendors on that. We just Mario's, he's been there and all that stuff. We do have an autograph session where the boys come up and take pictures, sell their pictures with the fans and all that stuff. But it's just, we don't have any. I've never broken out or whatever and got vendors to sell stuff on that one. That's something possible.
It's a nice little setup. It really is. It's well run, not just because, you know, Brian runs it. It's well ran. It's a nice setup. The fans are so nice. You know, he's got a fan contingent. So the few years that I did it, you know, you see the same people. So they're like, hey, how you doing? Good to see you again this year. You know what I mean? It's just a real pleasant experience. It really is a nice show. What day? When it?
He's freezing again.
I know.
You're freezing.
You're freezing, Mario.
What day is it? When is it?
It's this Saturday, July 29th.
Bell time?
7 p.m. bell time.
7 p.m. bell time. Gates open at 6. Four Winds Field. The minor league facility for the South Bend Cubs, which is affiliated with the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, for me, Maurice, it's like only a few people know that wrestling was the second love of my life. You know, I wasn't talented enough, although I can hit like hell. I wasn't talented enough to make it to the major leagues, to be a Major League Baseball player, which is the first love of my life, is baseball. Wrestling's my second. So to be a professional wrestler and go to Four Winds Field, for me, and I worked in Madison Square Garden, for me, that was better than the Garden, man. That was better. I wrestled Tony Atlas in Madison Square Garden. It was better than the Garden to me, man. To be in a professional baseball stadium. And, you know, I would always say to Roma, I go, I want to run the bases. He goes, don't get Brian in trouble, man. Just stick to what we're doing here, you know?
You know, Mario, you probably didn't know this because from our shows and all that, and we set up, because I know you're a Yankee fan too. Yeah. And I had the privilege, when the Yankees AAA was in Columbus, Ohio, they contacted me and they wanted a show. And we put on a show at the Yankees AAA complex when they were there. And on the show, we only did 3 matches. We had Jimmy Snuka, George Animal Steel, and King Kong Bundy. That was the 3 matches we had, and it was right after a ball game in the Yankees AAA.
Oh.
They were in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh,
I was able to do that. That was fun.
that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
A fun fact from the Guardian of Chaos: he was fortunate enough to work with Terry Funk at the Hammond, Indiana Civic Center in 2001.
That was an awesome match. Terry,
As a manager, he says, obviously.
but I wrestled Terry down in Indianapolis on a show, and I remember him go, "Kid, I'm an old man. Take it easy on me." He nearly killed me in that match. He was a machine and wouldn't stop, and I was almost screaming for my life. He kept going and all that stuff, and I'm like, "Who's going to kill who, Terry?" He was he was unbelievable. So yeah, that was actually a privilege, and I enjoyed. That was one of my matches I got to work with him.
Yeah,
Yep.
Another question here: memories of the 40-man battle royal in '92 that the Berserker won.
One of the ones. A lot of guys, and I can remember, and Mario knows this. Whenever we did battle royals and all that stuff, they put a list up there, the guys in there, and da 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 da, and your name's on there, and there's a number. That's when you're supposed to go out. And we're in one, and I love them to a point, but God, they're a pain in the ass. Was the Nasty Boys, and they were in there, and they were hunting me down from the get-go, trying to throw me out from the thing. And this one night, for some reason, I was like number 34 or 35 to go out. I was one of the last guys before like the final 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get me out, and I wouldn't go. And they're like, "Come on, go, go." I go, "It's not my turn." I said, I was supposedly following the Repo Man and all that stuff. And they were, and finally it was my turn, boom. And I think it was Owen that tossed me out or whatever and all that. We get back there, and of course, Knobs. And I said, I love him to death too. He's worked for me and all that. But, like, Jesus Christ, Costello thinks he's winning the battle royal. He won't go out. And I'm like, listen here, you stupid son of a bitch. If you knew how to work and read a sign, I went out when I was supposed to.
Good for you.
You, on the other hand, don't, and they started getting, kind of like in my face, like, what? I go, you heard me. I said, if you guys knew how to work or whatever, knew what the business was about, you follow the thing. And little did I know, Haku came up and was standing behind me and looking at him. And I was tight with Haku, and he just stepped in and goes, "Do we have a problem, guys?" And they turned around and said, "Nope," and they walked away.
I bet your ass they said no. That's great. That's great. Listen, I like Sags. Knobs, he was just an asshole.
Well, I mean, and I said, again, it's, I've had my dealings with them or whatever, but it's like, and I've even had Knobs on my show or whatever. And believe me, he was in for 3 days, and it felt like he was here for 3 months.
Right, guys, we're going to have to round up tonight. Brian, it was a pleasure to have you on the show today. It's 12:25 now my time, and I've got a busy 24 hours ahead. But,
well, Maurice, I appreciate it, and I'm glad I was able to finally make an appearance. And my brother Mario's here with me. He's pure enjoyment.
We'll have to get you for a
love
part
Brian,
2.
man. I love him.
I don't have as many good stories as Mario does, but
you told plenty of great stories tonight.
Scott, well, listen, you didn't even scratch the surface with his stories, man. He's done so much more than me. He had such a bigger career than I had. He's got a million stories, just don't have time to get to them. Scott Wilder, get on him right now. Get his ass in. Pay him. Pay this man. He's worth every nickel. Get him in.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews.